build that granny flat, it could be potentially a very good financial move for a client. So the numbers stack up for sure.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to The Property Pod.
Okay, guys, welcome back to The Property Pod, your weekly engagement into real estate here in the Hobart Marketplace. I'm getting so good at this intro. My name's Aaron Horn.
I'm so glad you went there because I was going to congratulate you.
Thank you so much.
You didn't even finish it. You were sorry. Like, I've just got this.
How good is this?
Bring me the praise. Welcome back to The Property Pod. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and I'm joined by...
And he is crushing it.
I'm on fire this morning, guys. It was freezing this morning. When I woke up this morning to my son, I put on the Hello Google and it said, "Welcome, good morning. It's -1." And I was like, you got to love a -1 morning here in this brisk state of Tasmania.
It was so cold when I left home this morning. I got rid of the ice off the car with the old bucket of water.
Yeah,
started driving down Crosby Road. Had to pull back over because the water had refrozen onto the front of the glass. And then Parker and I had to drive back with no vision to get more water.
I was doing the Ace Ventura head out the window trick. You know how he drives with his head out the window?
Smashed window.
Yeah, so I was doing that one because I only have to cross 2 streets. So probably shouldn't say that in a company car that I was driving somewhat unsafe.
They're going to look at us insurance when we claim.
No, the mercury dropped very, very low. But Pat, you're meant to be in the warmer side of the country.
I was supposed to be in Queensland, but here I am with you boys instead.
Well, you're welcome.
Not sure if that's a good thing or not, but hey, I'll take it.
Look, I think one positive of it was you would have missed your daughter's dance recital this morning at the Eisteddfods had you been in Queensland.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
And you got to get there this morning.
Instead, I got to watch dancing for a couple of hours. But hey.
Mate, you were beaming when you came back in. You said that it
was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it was supposed to be funny, but it was. Kids are funny.
Well, I watched that movie Little Miss Sunshine a couple of nights ago, and that great scene where you find out that the whole dance scene that her grandfather taught her was just an absolute abomination. I love that scene. So it just made the whole... I'd love to go to a dance recital or something like that where that happens.
Well, it's not the same as in the movie, but you were describing a young girl who maybe just danced to the beat of her own drum.
Yeah, very animated on stage. And it didn't matter what everyone else was doing. She was going to do it.
I love that.
It's very good.
All right, let's jump into some real estate stuff today. We've got to get into it. We've got a little bit to talk about. First up, there's this realestate.com report that's come out that it's not quite in our realm, but it's in the rental realm of things. Do you want to cover off on this, John?
So I think what it's describing is that the amount of views that's coming through the website for rental properties in Tasmania is just again continue to increase. So
yeah, crazy. I think they were saying 2,600 views per listing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Which is just silly. Like like that's just unbelievable.
I can't even fathom that many people are looking at rental listings like here, there, and everywhere to just try and...
There appears to be a lot of tenants moving around at the moment. We've had a few lease breaks take place at the moment, and I follow a couple of Facebook pages like Rental Taz and a few others, and there's a lot of people that seems to be just finishing up in a lease where they're at and moving into something else.
Moving sideways, yeah.
And I don't know if they're doing that to try get a cheaper rent or if they're doing it because it doesn't fit their needs anymore. But yeah, just a bit of movement around at the moment. But the market's still really strong. This shows that, like 2,600 views per property. That's a lot of people.
100%. When that's just like straight activity. And more so too, that it's unlikely where you'll have, say in a real estate, in a sales transaction, you just got a lot of people sticky beaking. Not as common we find that you're going to be sticky beaking just at other rental properties.
Yes, that seems more like out of necessity than out of kind of, I just want to have a window shop through what could potentially be.
House.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Yeah, but this stat here, it's the highest number in Australia. So out of all of the entire country, people are looking here the most for rentals.
Yeah.
But it's up by 72.4%.
That's insane.
It just shows how many people are seeing Tasmania as an option, and maybe they can't buy at the moment, so they have to rent because they've moved back to the state and there's no stock for sale. Like there's a heap of different reasons why maybe the rental market is still just booming along.
I think out of this report as well, it had something to do with Hobart being, again, top 3 cities, and it's still seen affordable as from the mainland, as
from the
perspective of I can afford to look into that market.
Yeah.
Again, we're in that position where there's not a lot of stock on available.
Well, and it just goes by mere virtue of not enough property for people wanting to move here. What are you going to do? Like we, many years ago, we used to have we used to track our own internal stats at the office to go, our vacant properties versus the greater market. And it was amazing to see where at one point there was, let's just say in 1 week, there was 820 rental properties, available.
Yep.
And then, 2 years later, there was like 150. So, the available property based on the popularity had just,
dropped off a cliff.
Dropped off a cliff.
Yeah.
Just nothing available.
And so this has got to do with like population growth and kind of people coming back to our beautiful state.
Coming home.
What we've got here to talk about today is actually something we've kind of covered off before, is that kind of medium density housing, or trying to fix the issues of there not being enough properties for people to move into.
Yeah.
There's been this promise of this grant that's been coming for quite some time, and then with this recent election that's just been happening, they've been trying to work out kind of the ins and outs of how they would actually get this across the line. So now that we are kind of in with a stable government.
Government.
Yeah, my words are
Stable government.
my words are this is it.
Now that translating this in, yeah.
Now that we're in with a stable government, the Department of State Growth are now accepting applications for this. How do you say this word?
Ancillary.
Thank you very much. For granny flats. Let's just say the granny flat grant.
Granny flat grant.
Granny flat grant.
I like it.
I think I haven't got it wrong. It's an ancillary, not ancillary. Anyway.
It's all right. Your brother will correct you later on it.
Thanks, Luke.
Anyway, basically what this is kind of they are trying to get people to build a brand new granny flat in the back of their property if they've got the space.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, because it really does help ease pressure, because the biggest problem we have is not enough land to develop new homes.
Absolutely.
So how do we utilise the land and the driveways and the infrastructure that's already there and sort of turn it into more housing? And I think this is a really good initiative.
Yeah, so like a lot of places, you'll see if you've got the extra size on your block so you can pop that little unit in, but this is kind of a smaller version of it. So your 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom kind of, it has all the essential things that you need. I think one of the important things is it has to have power and water linked from the main house. You can't really kind of separate and stuff.
Yeah, so
like
you can't go and sell it at a later date. Is main difference between a granny flat and a strata title unit.
Yeah, cool. I like the sound
It'll
of that.
just always be part of the house.
Yeah.
Like just another living space in the house.
Yeah. So this is a $2.5 million grant program. It's part of the Tasmanian Liberal government's first 100-day plan. So it's one of the initiatives implemented to help boost housing supply, support home ownership, and put the downward pressure on the rent. So the stuff that we were just talking about, it's kind of let's move people that are kind of in. So I think the really good idea of this is if your mum, your nan, your gran, somebody that is taking up a whole house with spare bedrooms that are in there that could be used, move them into your backyard and keep an eye on them.
Exactly. And that's that thing where you just have two people living in multiple bedroom properties that just don't need that much space. But they're really concerned because they have nowhere to go either. And obviously the family would, in many cases, the family would love to help, but they don't have the capacity to help either. So, when you've got that element, we were, simply having a discussion with one of our friends. Remember growing up, hanging around their house. And their nan was living at the granny flat out the back.
Yes.
And then once she passed, it became
His little bachelor pad.
His little bachelor pad, and then his sister and brother-in-law were living there when they were building, and then now I think they leased that to another family.
They leased that to a Nepalese family now. So actually I was saying earlier before that he's almost like the king of this little community in his area of Lenna Valley. They'll have special dinners for Steve Triffett. Shout out to you out there, my man. I know you won't be listening. Don't know what a podcast is. But shout out to you, my man, the king of your little community down there. With your
so nice, eh?
Already you've had a granny flat for years and you've used it for the family for whatever reason has popped up. So again, it's another opportunity to create a space. So turn your 3-bedroom house into a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom with separate living sort of thing.
Well, I was having a conversation with one of our investors, and they have a property in Bridgewater, I think it is. Technically, it's just large enough to, if the house was positioned in a better spot, the potential to Strata would be an option. And she's long on that sub. She has no intention of ever selling. And I said, well, look, unfortunately, with that option, it's just not. It just can't be done.
Yep.
However, if you were looking to try and add a little bit of extra income as a potential, maybe looking at this option is worthwhile. And I think even if it's because what does it say? You can't build it. It can't be any bigger than 60 square meters, but that's plenty big enough for separate living, bedroom, kitchen, laundry.
Oh, most
bathroom,
definitely, yeah.
With more than enough space. And, worst case scenario, you've actually just got a really good addition to the house anyway. All of a sudden, you end up with from 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 living areas. It's actually a really good option that way too.
Yeah, so we're looking at it from the perspective of, moving family into your backyard or potentially making a rental opportunity. But there'd be families out there as well that have outgrown their current home but can't quite afford to step up to the next level home. So build a teenager's bedroom and bathroom out the back.
I'm not sure that works with this grant per se, because I believe you've got to rent it out for 2 years post-build.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So you've got a kid that's almost ready to move out and you rent it out for 2 years first.
There, you could play that if you've got a 15-year-old that you think will eventually need it, or if that 15-year-old needs is working at Woolworths or Coles or somewhere out there, might have to sting them for rent for living at home.
Well, I mean, thinking back to our friend's example, where obviously they had, because it was a new project too, because with your situation, Aaron, where you've got a really good building out the back, which would be perfect for it, but they won't give that $10,000. Is that right?
Yeah. So looking into this, the reason I kind of put this together with the show notes was this is something I've been looking into ever since it was announced. I've got a granny flat, which we've mentioned on the show before, out the back already there. It was in a pretty average condition when we got it. It kind of felt like a bonus. There's the little back house out the back that's the bonus. Since then, I've done a bit of work to it. I've kind of pulled down the walls, put some insulation in, just getting it ready to kind of be a playroom, a cottage for the family to come and stay in, etc. When this idea came out, I was like, I'll jump on this. So I'm not sure if we've mentioned it already. It's a $10,000 grant. So essentially...
so if you invest 10, they'll match 10 kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's the other part where I was looking into it. I probably can't afford to do all the stuff I'd like to currently to the place with my situation. It is what it is, but I've just been tinkering away. So I looked into this thinking like, this could be a good opportunity.
Yeah.
One thing that is coming out of the grant that I've read in is that it must be a new build. It can't be a pre-existing one.
That's unfortunate.
And it's got to be at least $20,000 build.
And it's got to, so essentially what it ends up being is if you're willing to put 10 in, there'll be 10 coming back at you in the grant sort of thing. Right. So not as much as I was looking to spend on my place, but a really good opportunity for people out there that are looking for something like this. And if you've got that 10 grand, you could then obviously use the rent to kind of offset that cost
definitely
in the future.
And in many ways, it's probably going to cost you a bit more than that. However, if you do have that separate rental property, in our areas, you could say it'd be anywhere from $250 to $500 a week, depending upon the finishings and the location. The build cost of a 60 square metre separate dwelling will be more than covered in positive rent growth over the long term. So, I mean, why this is great too is unless they change obviously all the zoning laws, which God knows how long that would ever take. This is a really good solution for people who want to create an extra income in their house,
especially if they've got yards they're not using.
Yeah, exactly. To me, I remember looking at this years ago, and there was obviously this is just anecdotal for me talking, but you saw that huge change in Melbourne and Sydney where they started to do this really, really commonly, and it's just surprising why it's just never taken off in Tassie.
Well, it's kind of what they were talking about in that Glenorchy City plan of kind of changing the mindset from, you have your house with your big block of land out the back. Like the living situation in the future is, there won't be as much space. So let's kind of, maximise
what we've got
and use it better and have all the community areas that you can go to.
Yeah. Well, I had this thought where it reminds me if everyone had a vegetable garden at the front of their house, there'd be so much food that we couldn't eat it all. It's that. So fortunate enough, if we start to consider all these large backyards that can be segmented off over time, there's a real good potential that we do have an abundance of housing, or that we can at least meet the requirements of what we need by everyone's, you could say, is, pitching in their own way.
Yeah, most definitely. It's kind of, getting that community together. And it's funny when you said that. I've been walking the dog just up my street. This is off topic, but walking the dog up my street, and there's this bit of, looks like lettuce growing in the gutter. And every time I walk past, I point out to my son, oh, look, there's the street lettuce. Son, if you ever get hungry, you just come along and eat the street lettuce. And then that led us down this ridiculous path of talking about, imagine if that was a thing where like all your veggies just grew in the gutters of the street. Yeah, just go along and eat your strawberries off the side of the road. And it was like
munging on a carrot,
Pat's just thinking, you're crazy. You say this stuff to your son.
I like going down these,
There's a market for street lettuce, Pat, I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Sounds like it.
There's certainly the demand.
Is that before or after you walk to Woolworths with the free fruit?
He loves those nanas. he goes into Coles, and when they don't have them, he's like, nana? I'm like, nah, wrong store, buddy.
More nana.
No, so back to the houses. Yeah. The way the grant looks like it's going to be paid out is it'll be paid out in 2 installments, so $5,000 installments. You get the first $5,000 when you submit a statutory declaration of building commencement, and then any relevant council permits within 6 months of signing the deed.
So once it's all signed off and finished.
Is that what that means?
I'm pretty sure that's what that's referring to. That once it's installed and you get the sign off from
And it's
council
approved.
and it's approved, then they'll give you the other half.
That's fair.
Yep. And so then the second installment's when you receive a certificate of occupancy and a signed lease.
Ooh, that's an extra little bit there.
Little caveat.
Yeah, so you've got to actually find your tenant and get the tenant in there before they'll pay the.
Well, I guess, you can't promise to say, I'm going to build this and rent it out. We'll give you the cash if you can't prove that you're then renting it out.
And that's why it takes them forever to think of, to get these policies into play, because they've got to think of every little scenario.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that you'd have to have a lease signed before you get the other half of your grant.
Well,
but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is it obviously they're trying to specifically fix a problem, and they don't want a case where everyone's just getting money to, build another separate living area at the back, fair enough. Well, I mean, playing the numbers though, I just did a quick calculation on what how much it might cost to build, anywhere from say $100,000 to $150,000, and on a fair rent. If you establish that and put in a lease in place, it's probably looking at, you would expect at least 10% return on that build for what you could rent it for. It's probably more, it might be a bit less, but most likely more.
Is that your estimate on how much building a 60 square foot?
Well, so I said 160 square metres times at least $2,000 to $2,500 per a build square at the minute.
Yep.
And then doing an average rent of say $300 to $350 a week for that in the right area. $300 a week would seem fair. And then obviously working out the rental yield, that's a return of 10%. So that's a bloody good return, considering that most rental properties in Hobart now are shifting towards this sort of 4 to 5%. And if you look in metropolitan Sydney and Melbourne, it's only 1.5 to 2%.
Yep.
To build that granny flat, it could be potentially a very good financial move for a client. So the numbers stack up for sure.
So speaking of numbers, I think the only other thing we haven't covered off basically on the grant is that it is available for the first 250 people.
Specifically,
Yeah, so the first 250 eligible applicants, it opened on the 30th of June, so just before the start of the new financial year, and closes on the 30th of September, or until they're fully subscribed.
Yeah, right, okay.
And I think it says here that you'll hear back within 21 days of submitting your application, whether it's a go or not a go.
Well, I think these grants are really useful that, obviously it could be 10% of your build, but why not take advantage of it if you were thinking about making that move anyway? It's like, why not? It's like it's an element where, fortunately enough, you're just going to get a little bit more bang for your buck.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. The computer was exploding on me.
I thought I was going to finish my sentence early, but then you guys kept...
So John's like,
keep rolling, keep going.
No, I didn't hear any of what you said. Sorry.
I think with if the grants are available and you were thinking about doing it anyway, now's a good opportunity to start, making that next step. Why not?
Yeah, for sure. Look, and it was something I'd looked into. I was really interested in. I'm still really interested in the outcome of it. Looking into the future, and if we can help anybody out there that's living rough or needs a place to stay, this could be something to look forward to in the future, and hopefully, give you an opportunity to have a place to stay or have a bit of security with a nice little granny flat. And moving in with mum, nan, granny, any of those ones out the back.
Yep.
Imagine if podcast nan lived out the back of my place.
Perfect.
I'd be hearing the podcast blaring in my little granny flat out the back, and nan, turn that bloody thing down. Hear John just saying, well, essentially.
That's a
fundamentally.
That's a high quality problem as far as I'm concerned.
Another thing that came out this week that I caught my eye and it was quite interesting, it was actually a report that CoreLogic put out at the end of financial year. Did you see that one, John?
Not specifically, no.
It's quite interesting. It was talking about how Hobart's one of the fastest growing cities in Australia.
Yeah, this is what I was covering off before. I think I must have read Nino's thing. Yep. Anyway, hit us with it, Pat.
You're on board?
I'm on board. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Basically, Hobart's grown by almost 20% in the last 12 months, which is just a huge number. I think the exact number is 19.6. So, you buy a house last year for, 400. Imagine adding nearly 20%
80 grand
straight onto the top of it in 12 months.
Unbelievable.
It just really showcases what the Tasmania marketplace and especially the Hobart Marketplace is doing right now.
Yeah.
And the other thing that amazed me, it was only second to Darwin in the entire country. So to think that, Hobart's marketplace is one of the fastest growing, it's nothing that our listeners probably haven't heard of before.
Yeah.
We bang on about it all the time about how hard it is to buy here in Hobart. But
it's just nuts. Looking at it here, it's saying that Hobart dwellings, houses and units combined have a higher median than Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth and Darwin.
Yeah. Because what does it go Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, Hobart.
If you'd have said that 5 years ago, people would have laughed at you. People would have laughed that we're the little under.
And then to follow on from that, it's only about $145,000 more affordable than Melbourne. And Melbourne is one of Australia's largest cities.
It's like a mega global. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, so Hobart is etching closer and closer to a Melbourne marketplace, which
off the show.
I just don't understand how that's possible. We're a little tiny island town. They're a big, giant, worldwide famous city. You tell people overseas you're from Hobart and they look at you. You say Melbourne or Sydney, and they know straight away. And to think that, look, we're almost as expensive to live here as it is there.
Awesome.
It's just crazy.
Well,
so I'm just saying, this is where I read up before. So this is Mandy Welling, who we had on the show in the past, and you've got a really good relationship with John, president of the REIT, was saying that despite our price growth, people from interstate still see Tasmania as affordable.
Relative value, absolutely.
So, this is what I crossed off on. The inquiry from interstate is increasing, and we're hearing more anecdotes where people are coming here and putting their best foot forward.
AKA putting in a big giant price to try to secure a property because, someone moving back from the mainland buying a house which is $145,000 cheaper than what they've probably just sold their place.
If they're moving long term.
Yeah, they can afford to put maybe $30,000 or $40,000 more than what it should be worth to try to secure it. They can just take that property out of the market. And that's going to anger local people. They're not going to be happy to hear it. But
it happens.
Unfortunately.
Well, and that was where we'd looked at the numbers once before, is it does happen 10% of the time. So is that there was 10% was, interstate or intrastate purchasing, where still 90% of the market was grown by locals. So sometimes, the best buyers 9 times out of 10 have been locals, but you will get those moments. And we were doing an assessment for a multi development actually in Moona, and there was a sale that we're looking at once before at Garden Road, and at the time when the sale had gone up, they said there was offers over $750, $770, I think it was, and then boom, the best buy came from interstate, cash $910,000, and just everyone went, where the hell did this come from? And of course, a lot of the locals oh, this is great, this has boosted my price up, and then we had to go, well, yes, maybe. In this particular unique case was one person who just blew it out of the water, and then it just completely changed the expectations for the suburb.
For sure.
And, speaking with friends that live in the area and other clients, that was a standout in the moment. And there's so many cases like that across all suburbs and little streets where they go, oh my God, how did that happen?
So it'd be interesting. I guess I was just curious. Perfect time for a report like that to come out being in the financial year, and be interesting to see what the rest of 2021 brings.
Well, and it's so interesting too, if we're giving advice to clients in 12 months, we're completely wrong. We're 20% off the mark. So it's we have to consider calling back our clients because otherwise we look like idiots.
Speaking of people being completely wrong but also being completely right, did anyone read the Propertyology report from Simon the other day? Basically just flexing his muscles saying...
Remember what I was saying?
Yeah, remember when everyone said doom and gloom?
Yeah.
I was right, you were wrong. Well done, Simon.
Shout out to him, man. I read that and I was like, buddy, mate. You own it.
Absolutely. He's allowed to.
All right. I think what we'll do is we will finish up there. Just before we go, I'd like to check Pat's hand tremors, how are you feeling 7 days into dry July?
It's harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to lie. When you get to Saturday night and you're like,
what do I normally do?
What do I do?
Oh, no.
Well, surprisingly, I heard Chris was saying how he's feeling a lot fresher and better after the 7 days.
It hasn't worked for me because all I've done is replace beer with sugar. And I'm just drinking Coke.
No.
And I'm like, oh, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing.
No.
Meanwhile, wife Abby, I'm off to the gym. I'm off to this. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Hey, someone's got to hold the fort at home, buddy.
Yeah. But you know what? There's only 3 weeks to go. So
You're on the countdown.
silver lining there.
As I feel your dad's actually doing really well. So
Yeah.
shout out to Chris.
Yeah.
Overall, the team's doing really well. I think they're almost at $1,000 in raised money. We'll be adding another $100 to that today with the sale Martin put across the board yesterday.
Yeah,
So
awesome. Very good news.
it's good to see that the tally's going up. We'll see where we end up.
Yeah, if you do want to reach out in the month of July, you can go to dryjuly.com and look up the 414 Property Co. Clearheads or, check out the Property Pod and we will pop some links there. But it's for a great cause. Shout out to everybody that's got on board so far. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks again for listening to the
guys.
Property Pod. We will see you next week.
All right.
All right, partner. Keep on rolling, baby.
It's the property part time.
You've been listening to the Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Co.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.